Hey there, Max here, and today we're going to be watching a Z Frank video. It's actually been a hot while since I've actually watched a Z Frank video, so this is going to be quite exciting for me. And this one appears to be about the true facts of geckos. Geckos are adorable. I love geckos. I've never had a bad experience with a gecko in my life, so this is going to be, I can already tell this is going to be a fun one. Let's go ahead and get this started up here. If you enjoy, please do leave a like. If there's anything that you'd like me to react towards, please do put it in the comments. And please do subscribe to help me build up my community and follow along more with us in the future. I'll leave a link to the original in the description. Let's go ahead and get this started. Zefrank, tell us about the geckos.
Years ago, some real do-it-your-own-way sorts of lizards split off from the rest. While the other lizards were mainly hunting during the day, these
that grasshopper's screwed.
These ones figured that at night the line would be shorter at the buffet. So these little plucky bastards evolved incredibly sensitive night vision, nearly 350 times more sensitive than ours. And in color, too. Their pupils evolved the ability to open wide into a gaping eye hole that let in more light. And as if that wasn't enough, they told evolution
cheerful face
to get rid of the eyelids. Screw blinking. Evolution was like, that's how we keep your eyes moist. But these geckos were like, just do it, we'll figure it out. So they started using their tongues instead.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Now most of those daytime lizards communicate using body language. Throw in a pop of color now and then. But at night, even with the special vision, that wasn't ideal. So you know what they did? Their throat parts evolved a voice box. Now they won't shut up. Just booty calls.
Is that really what they sound like?
Calls all night. It's a mess. I mean, different ones do it different. It's like a rainbow of annoying. Some of these geckos followed their insect snacks up into the
wow, you can barely see that one. That's really good camouflage.
Trees. And some of those got real good at putting the bush in ambush. Started blending right in, like the satanic leaf-tailed gecko.
Ooh, nice.
And it was just going for leaf. I was a bit surprised when the whole satanic thing got at it. But if you want to hide in the trees, you got to get up in the...
Dang. I know geckos can get good with camouflage, but this is another level, dude. What the heck?
Trees to begin with. They did have claws, but try chasing a beetle across a leaf. Nothing to hang on to. And so some geckos evolved, not once, but a few times. One of the most incredible adaptations. Many geckos, especially the ones good at
best grippers that mankind has ever seen.
Climbing, have these pads on their toes. If you take a cross-section of the foot, you can see that these pads are made out of little tiny hair-like structures called setae, and these are mostly made of keratin. Now the tips of these setae get quite bushy, and that's because at their very ends they branch off into all these little spatula-looking things called...
You think they're all unique like fingerprints are?
Spatulae, for once science made it easy. Now you'll notice that all these structures seem to have a bit of a curve to them, bending towards the back of the foot. And that means when a gecko puts its foot straight down, all those little spatulae aren't really making contact with anything. But if the gecko pulls its foot back just a little bit, that shearing or dragging motion causes the spatulae to come in contact with the surface. And the hair-like structure of the setae means that they can conform to surfaces. And a bit like a refrigerator magnet, even if you slide them around like this, they remain firmly attached. Now there can be up to 1 billion spatulae on each gecko foot. And in this position, that gecko foot is contacting the surface thousands of times more than our finger would.
Just the most insane amount of friction you can possibly deal with.
The point of all this is that when molecules get really close, and I mean really close, electrons in one molecule will move away from the electrons in the other. And this change creates a tiny electric force between the positives and the negatives. You've experienced van der Waals forces because that's how Scotch tape works. Tape, though, has a different strategy for getting all that contact. It has this thin layer of material that flows a little bit when you apply pressure, and that allows it to form itself to the shape of the surface. But having Scotch tape on your foot would be a real bitch. It's not exactly reusable. It resists being pulled off.
And then, of course, you get all that flint and nastiness and grime all over it, and then you completely get used to it.
It gets dirty, and there's nothing worse than dirty Scotch tape, and if it gets wet, forget about it. But geckos' feet have ways to deal with all of this. Hi, I'm Zay Frank. We're not doing sponsorships anymore.
Ooh, I think this is the first time I've seen his face.
So please consider joining my Patreon to support this show. There's also a channel called True Facts Educational where I upload versions of these videos that are more appropriate for classrooms and younger audiences. Where were we? Oh, right. Now, one slightly odd thing about these...
Hey, Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. See that? See that?
Piece of gecko toe pads is that they are a bit overpowered, or OP as the kids like to say. Just a single toe can support their whole body weight. I mean, it's like driving to the grocery store in a Lamborghini.
Dang.
With all that power, you have to have some finesse. So each gecko toe has tendons running through them that can help control the activation of those city. Also, when activated, those toes kind of engorge with blood to help push down the city into the surface. Now, when it's time to let go, they relax those tendons and let their little toe erections go soft. Then they activate these little muscles on their tippy-tippy toes, curling their toes backwards and up and peeling off those city row by row. This is called
Oh, wow, they really do kind of peel back, don't they?
digital hyperextension. Now, in addition to being a good way to unstick yourself, digital hyperextension seems to have another benefit. Now, I'm not sure if you've been in a forest, but they're quite dirty. And geckos walk around barefoot, hippies. But if you get a bunch of forest
I highly do not recommend walking barefoot in a forest.
dirt clogging up your spatulae, then that adhesive system won't work. But it turns out these toe pads are self-cleaning. And this works in two ways. The first has to do with how many spatulae can realistically attach to a particle of dirt. The density of the spatulae and the shape of the particle means that often there's not enough spatulae attached to overcome the van der Waals forces that the particle has with the surface. But what if there are? If those spatulae really are holding on to a piece of dirt, that's where the digital hyperextension comes in. As they curl their toes back, they build up tension on those attached city. When that tension overcomes the force of attachment, those spatulae sort of pop off, and that creates a sort of catapult for the particle. So if they dirty a footsie, the best thing to do is keep walking.
You would think that scientists would have been able to figure out some good ways of mimicking gecko feet. It's like the most ultimately designed grippers you can possibly imagine.
Look at that, after only 8 steps, and they leave behind little dirt footprints. Here's one up close, and after only 5 steps show off. Sure, there's some dirt left, but the tips of the spatulae are clean. Now, even if they step in something they can't clean off, they only have to wait a month or 2 until they shed, get brand new equipment. Looks like dish gloves and a hazmat suit.
It does kind of, doesn't it?
Now, a lot of geckos live where it's quite wet, and considering they use dry adhesion, this can be a problem. But before we get to their feet, there's something amazing that happens on their bodies. The gecko's skin is quite hydrophobic.
Yeah, I was about thinking that as well when I was seeing all the beating up on them.
Meaning water doesn't really like to attach to it. But in this case, it's super hydrophobic. Goes to 11. Gecko's skin is covered with these little bumpies. The bumpies look like they might be sort of smooth, but if you take a closer look, they're covered in tiny little hairs.
Really now? I thought they were just like pure scales, like everything else.
And this means that in addition to the hairs being hydrophobic, that water droplet is also sitting on pockets of air. Now, this all means that water droplets will often just roll right off.
Geckos are just science's crazy experimental thing. I can't think of a good word. But damn it, they're amazing, aren't they?
But something else is going on. If 2 droplets come in contact with each other on this surface, they'll merge and hop right off. It's like magic. Now, this has to do with surface tension. Let's say we have 2 water droplets, each with a radius of 1 unit. With math, we can figure out their volume and surface area. So between the 2 of them, before they merge, they have this amount.
Okay, my brain is way too shut down to be thinking about math right now.
Now watch what happens when they come together. The volume or amount of water stays the same, but in the new droplet there's less surface area. And that means that some of the energy that was used to hold those spheres together is released as motion. Now inside this new droplet there's a lot of sloshing around. From the water coming together and now this energy, the side forces more or less cancel each other out. Upwards, there's nothing stopping it, but down, you've got a solid hydrophobic surface that pushes back on that force, and pop! Now this is great when there's an accumulation of dew, but also if water comes down from the top. Back to their feet. When it's really wet, you can see that they're f***ed. But there is some evidence that just a small layer of water, like when it's humid, actually helps them stick. If they step in water, they seem to have a self-drying thing going on, which also works by just walking. It's not totally clear how it works, not sciencing hard enough apparently, but it could have something to do with these lipids they found in the structure of the spatulae. If you remove those lipids, the gecko's setae get wet real fast, which makes sense because lipids are kind of oily and might help push water away. But it seems counterintuitive that they would have something oily on a structure that acts as an adhesive. One idea is that they might actually help these toe pads not be
Oh no, he's poor guy slipping!
Too sticky. Like I said, they're a bit overpowered. When geckos walk horizontal, they keep their toes up. It's like those little hassles you don't think about when you have a superpower. Even when they're climbing, they're usually not using the whole system.
It's kind of like when you're walking with a bad cramp in your foot.
When they go upwards, they mainly use their front feet for adhesion. The back feet are more for pushing off the surface, which is especially important when you go vertical, because you don't want your weight distribution to be such that when you take a step, you topple over backwards. Now, the reverse is true when they're going downhill. The back feet are the ones that use adhesion, and you can think of the front ones sort of as brakes. But for the back feet to engage those toe pads, they need to be rotated around so the angle's right. Now, when they're upside down, they have to engage all 4 feet. But even then, they only have to use a fraction of their potential. But of course, the world they live in isn't just glass and stucco. They gotta deal with bark and leaves and things that are wet, and sometimes they have to do that in a hurry or die. So having an overpowered system might sort of be a fail-safe in
Wild world's the dangerous world.
case things go haywire. Helps to have a backup. I'm sure that's why a lot of them kept their claws. Even that tail comes in handy. I mean, look at that, right? When you think the poor bastard's gonna fall over backwards, slaps that tail down. Old school. And let me tell you, they use that tail quite a bit. Like, check out what happens when they fall. To right themselves, they whip that tail around in the opposite direction. Sort of like when you kick to untangle yourself from a
And they say cats land always on their feet.
swing. And it all happens incredibly fast. In fact, it's the fastest self-righting of any non-flying creature. If you put one in a vertical wind tunnel, why wouldn't you? You can see they use their
Scientists are crazy.
tail as an active stabilizer, but also as a rudder. Look at this one, figured out how to move forward by undulating its body. This
Damn it, they're the most scientific creatures ever.
is the kind of shit Superman has to do when no one's watching. And all of this is incredibly useful for when they jump. I mean, come on, you ever seen jumping like that? I mean, the form's impeccable. It's like air ballet.
Yeah, but I'm sure the Russian judge will still give them only an 8.5.
Now the landing, not so much. They have a bit of a belly flop sort of thing going. On
Well, I mean, they got a very... They're nothing but belly.
purpose, mind you, helps distribute the impact when they land horizontal. But when they want to land on a vertical surface, they have a different strategy. Comes in strong and takes it right in the face. Probably why they're in the research and not doing it. And if you're thinking, oh, that doesn't look that bad, you should see them in the wild. The footage isn't great because they do it in private. It's embarrassing. But this one took it on the noggin at 13 miles an hour. It's like a fail video, but on purpose. And you can see they hit
They must have some pretty hard heads for their world.
hard enough that their whole upper body has some recoil. But that tail helps stop the rotation while their back feet hold on.
That is just still crazy, man. Geckos are nuts.
Which is great for when they come out of the concussion. Some geckos even have another one of those adhesive pads on their tails. Why not? Now, with a tail as useful as all that, you'd think they'd keep them pinned to their body like you might a pair of mittens to a child's winter coat. But listen, some days when you're a gecko just really suck. Like Edgar here was just on his way to Costco to get there before the doors opened and ran into Big Steve. But Edgar
Ooh, that guy is dose.
wasn't going to miss out on that 2-for-1 moist wipes deal. So look at that, his tail pops right off. And Big Steve didn't do that, the gecko did. Now, Big Steve's having some tail for dinner. But listen, if you're thinking, oh, if I could do that, I'd pop it off at parties in a lull. Well, you should know it's actually a real pain in the ass. That's right, eat that dad joke. The gecko's tail has a number of areas where the muscles form these sort of triangle shapes. These triangles wrap around the tail and form a crown, which ends up being sort of like a plug that fits into sockets on the other side. The muscles don't go across those triangles, they stop. So you might be wondering what holds the damn thing together. But if you look closely at the surface of these tips, they got these little bumpy mushroomy things all over them. And these structures seem to be used for adhesion. Again with the adhesion.
So are the tails, like, only, like, not completely attached, like, solidly, but they're all, like, kind of ground together by this adhesion screw?
On a normal day, that adhesion keeps things tight. But if they contract those muscles, they can break that adhesive bond. And you can see that little crown thing just sort of pop out. The vertebra underneath this area has a break point in it, so it snaps off too. There's very little blood because they have a mechanism to cut off the artery. Now the tail part, it keeps going. Little reflexes firing off.
Dear my goodness.
Gives a predator something to look at. It's not something you see every day. Stumpy,
And they say jumping means they're hyperactive.
on the other hand, now has to deal with not having a tail. You know, doctor's orders lay off the jumping, but they also have a different weight distribution. The gecko's nervous system, however,
But they're alive, and that's the important part.
Adapts to this, and even without the tail, they're pretty much just as good at hunting as they were before. Now, the tail regenerates. It takes about a month or so. There's some awkward moments in there. You don't go out to the club with a red rocket, I'll tell you that.
Oh my.
But the final product looks very similar to the original, on the outside at least. What doesn't grow back are the vertebrae. Instead, there's a cartilaginous tube, which means from the site of the injury backwards, there's no more breaky points.
Interesting. So they can only pull that trick off once, maybe twice, depending on how badly they got bit.
And if you have to do it again, you better hope that you have some break points left. That's why this one looks like he's having a moment. Damn it, it was just a shadow. And the tail's trying to crawl back to him. I'm not ready. It's like sperm on a carpet. Gecko, gecko, I know that you're gonna climb up on your little toes. Gecko, gecko, I know that you're gonna climb up on your little toes.
Sometimes they have luck, sometimes they don't. Yeah, mostly that's the final message, it looks like. Well, oh my goodness, that did not disappoint. Oh man, geckos, they're crazy little buggers, ain't they? They can got their own defense mechanism, they can climb literally on anything, they're completely hydrophobic, like, they don't even blink, they have to clean their own eyes, like, what on earth, man? These things are gotta be one of the craziest robot machines you could possibly even think about of animals. But hey, I thank you very much for joining me through this little lesson about geckos. I hope you learned something about it, because I know I did. And I thank you much for joining me through this little adventure, and I look forward to maybe watching some more Z Frank videos in the future. You have a good rest of your day now. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. If you have anything you'd like me to react to, please leave them in the comments. And please do subscribe to help build my community and follow along more in the future for me. Thank you very much once again. I'm out. And thank you. I hope you live... Got stumbled up there. I hope you live life to the max. Bye-bye.